Hello everyone and welcome back to MOTOTravel, the channel we talk about motorbikes, travel and adventure. As you can see, I got lots of video gear here on my table and I want to show you what I take with me on my trips. A lot of stuff is slightly outdated and will be changed for 2020, and I'll let you know why. Right, let's just go through all the stuff I have on my trip with me, and then afterwards I go through it and tell you why I chose particular items. Okay, hold on a second. By the way, that's not coffee. That's the last of the Irish whiskey I brought with me from the trip to Ireland. And it's so horrible out there. You know, being in the bike shed, I think that just warms me ever so slightly from the inside. Anyhow, so first let's go to my cameras. My helmet camera is still the Sony FDRx3000. I think they are one of the best cameras out there. They are already 5 years old, but they definitely do the trick for me, and let me tell you later why. I also have a GoPro 7 as my vlogging rig, and I just got a new GoPro 8. I'm still going through the motion what I'm doing with that one. I also have my old and trusty Hero 4 with me, what I mount on my motorbike for some action shots. And these are, well, that's the case for my Sony FDR. Obviously, as a camera, I also use my mobile phone. This is my old Canon G7X, what I used on many trips to do photography. That will be superseded, and let me tell you why. And then I upgraded to a Insta360 camera I take with me. And then I have plenty of accessories with it. And this is my older Canon 70D I will take with me in the new year. This here is a Zoom sound recorder, just one of these H1Ns, pretty cheap but excellent. And here I have lavalier microphones, but I just actually chose the Rode wireless system, pretty okay price wise. And then here I also have a Rode video mic, what I use on my vlogging rig. Two selfie sticks, one for the 360 camera, and that is pretty much for everything else, with a remote control for taking photos on the phone or firing the GoPro up. And here on the GoPro I have the GoPro selfie stick, but it's rather handy because it's got a tripod included, and you know, it's extremely flexible. I'm not going through the accessories because that's a complete different thing. Oh, and here I have a wireless trigger what goes on top of the big Canon camera, what I can use to take photos when, you know, on a distance. So if I on my own, obviously I always travel alone, so what I do is I set the camera up and turn around and then drive towards the camera or drive away, and with that remote trigger I have about 150 meter distance, so you can actually do really nice shots. I think somewhere else, oh yeah, here we go, 1 second. That's another timer trigger I can use, basically does all sorts of stuff with it, but I go into the details what I'm doing with this stuff a little bit later. In fact, my plan is to set up a whole bunch of videos to explain how I use the stuff and why I use the stuff and why I make the decision to purchase certain items and how I go around problems on the road, really. So it is a difficult thing to choose the right stuff because you can go really over the top, but in the years of travel I found I really get disappointed when I come back and I don't have the kind of images or videos who truly reflect what I experienced on the trip. And it's not just for the YouTube channel, it's also for me personally, because if you travel, you want to bring emotions home, and if the emotions are not captured in your video, I think it's really disappointed in the long run. And I did it many times where I cut short, I didn't put the effort in, and then when I came home, it is rather disappointing, because you come back with all these excitement in your mind and you can't really express them, because if you want to show it to your wife or to your friends, they can't just connect with it. So for me, is in the future, I want to do a little bit more effort when it comes to filming, photography and vlogging. So now move on. Right, so let's just go through all the stuff I swap over first in 2020. That is my old G7X. It's actually a really good camera. It shoots RAW files and it does video very well, and you know, it's a good fallback camera. However, the shortcoming is obviously because of the small sensor size, you just don't get the quality for your money shots. And yes, the size difference is massive. I will gravitate in the new year over to my 70D. It's an old and tried and tested camera. I have others, but be honest, I don't mind if I ruin this one on the trip. My bigger Canon cameras and stuff like that, that stays at home, and they do really nice pictures. Okay, it's the smaller sensor. The sensor size is not ideal for landscape photography and stuff, but the features in there are enough to get really high quality pictures out of, especially if I mount that on a tripod and use my remote trigger, so you get ultra sharp, really nice images. So for photography, that is it. I still will use my phone, and a really good investment I did was a couple of months ago. I bought these little, let me show you this, clip-on lenses. Have a look at this. And all you do is you mount it on here and you clip it on your phone, and it makes a slide wide angle lens out of the built-in camera, what is perfect if you do selfies or vlogging, because you just get this tiny little bit more space around you, and that helps a lot. So the phone is still my #1 device I use for photography, because also, you know, keeping in mind you've got the GPS data on it, so later on in post-production, if you come back and you can't remember where everything was, you put that into your application and Google shows you exactly where we took the photos. When it comes to another piece of technology I want to take with me, and I did last year a little bit on my trips, is the 360 camera. Now I will make a video about that, because I think they are fabulous, but the post-production about this stuff is pretty awkward really, and if you shoot a lot of video, I think it's not much fun using these cameras. But you can do some exciting shots. If you go, for example, on my video about Scotland and you see me driving on the ferry, where you see the camera moving across and basically not going 90 degrees away from me, so going this way, that's all done on that camera. But it's a lot of effort in the editing process, so I'm not too keen about it. However, of course, you have the problem with the nature of a 360 camera. It's very fragile, because the lenses here and here, they really poke out, and as soon you scratch them, you know, you're in trouble. So that's the reason why I always keep that camera in the pouch and have it hanging around my neck, because if you scratch that, if that camera falls down once, it's over. You can't fix them. Well, you can, but you just as well buy a new camera. So in terms of motorbike vlogging, I don't know if I can recommend that. It's a great way of doing it, but in the same token, because of the nature of what it is and how fragile it is, I think it's more a specialist item you use once in a while. You don't want to use it as a permanent fixture on your trip. That is the selfie stick I use with it. That's actually called Bushman, and they are quite handy. There's one feature I do like these cameras is when you set up, say, in a camp, a 360 camera is ideal because obviously you don't want to run around with your vlogging camera, or you have a whole bunch of people sitting around a campfire. This is where they come on their own, and what you can do is, I have the Bushman Tripod and I take that with me with a little tripod unit underneath, and you screw it on and you put it onto the ground, and then you poke that thing out, and it's about 6 feet tall, and then as soon a little bit wind blows, this whole thing falls over and your 360 camera is broken. That's one of the reasons why I bought this particular tripod, because it came with 2 weights, and they're about, I would say, £1 each, and you screw them on. So it means you have some really good mass on the bottom of your monopod, and it stays pretty secure. So if I would put it down now and just show you, obviously it's standing on the ground. If I turn that to one side, you see it bounces back pretty well. That will save your 360 camera from falling over. I mean, the best way to do it is really put a weight on here, but you know, half the time you just set up and you want to do a few pictures or something like that. So that is a absolutely ideal solution. A weighted tripod under a monopod helps a lot. Yes, the argument will be you have to take this extra pound of weight with you, but you know, if you want to do that kind of filming and photography, you just have to bite the bullet. I also have a semi-waterproof case for it. What I haven't used yet, I mean, there's still the film on it where you can put the camera inside and it gives you a little bit more protection. But in the same token, you do not want to run around and have this thing sticking out of your helmet, because, to be honest, it just looks daft and it's just not pleasant. You know, if you hit the wind with that and it just pulls your head around, that's the kind of stuff I'm staying away from. And even this, when you look at it, I keep in a protective pouch, because as soon as you scratch it, it's over with it. The audio which comes out of them is, let's call it rubbish. That would be fair. They're just not made for that. You know, there's a tiny little microphone on here, as you can see, and it's one of these typical, let's call it a horrible sound. If you are in a room, it is okay-ish, but as soon as you're outside with a little bit of wind, you know yourself, you get this horrible wind noise. So it's not worthwhile having. That's the reason why I have this little Zoom, what is absolutely excellent to record the sound. So if I sit around a campfire and have the 360 camera out, I'll take that and get a really nice sound from all my surroundings, and it just adds to experience when you show the video after. When it comes to sound on the GoPros, I mean, this is the GoPro 7 I have in here. It's like a little vlogging frame. Let's show you that. I just take the camera out. That's my GoPro 7, and you've seen them on YouTube a lot, people using them, and I have to say that's great. It always used to be, one of them used to be my B camera, B-roll, where I basically had a grip like that, put it on there, camera is off at the moment, so what I do is took it out of the tank bag, hit the play button or the record button, and because it's a really wide angle lens, as you can see, camera is recording now, because it's a wide angle lens, you know, I've just been riding away and just point and shoot really. I don't really worry about a monitor on the back because it's pretty much pointless, you know where you're pointing at, and then you're fine. And then I just hit the button again, camera is off, and I put it back in my tank bag, and I did that all during riding. At the later stage I had a little bit of plastic tube on the front where my speedo is, and I just put it in there. So there's plenty of ways of utilizing that to get really nice shots, like on the side when you pass somewhere in a landscape, or you see something and you need urgently a camera, you just take it out, hit the button, and up you go. So now what I did is I switched over to my GoPro 7, and these two cameras there basically will be my permanent fixtures on my helmet. One goes in here on the BMW helmet, and then the other one I will put on the showy helmet, so I can leave the cameras on it. It just makes my life easier. I don't have to move the stuff around. And that one here will be the camera what I use for B-roll or for vlogging when I'm riding, because you know yourself, it's set up so if you hit the button it's recording, and you know you have the benefit of the screen. When it comes to walking around and speaking to camera, I use the little video microphone from Rode. What is really great, one second, I need something, I want to show you something. What I wanted to show you is the shock mount who comes with it. You know, if you mount that thing on top of your GoPro, I mean, just look at that. That's a joke. I mean, I don't know what they've been thinking about it, how they justify a piece of well, because it's a cheap piece of plastic. So what I did is, it's pretty much useless. I thought, well, especially if you have the big dead cat on that, you know what you need, to be honest, in wind. So if you have that in front of your camera, you know, because of the nature of the GoPro, you definitely see that little furry thing. Then other people say, okay, let's put a spacer in here so it's hanging up here. And it just becomes a really goofy thing, wobbling around wherever you go. So obviously, me being me, I'm not putting up with this thing, what is, to be honest, kind of a bad joke. I got myself, well, that came with my video microphone, what I use up here so to record, but it's a professional grade shotgun microphone, and they added this to it. Now, if that is good for professional stuff, why do they bother with this thing? So what I do is I mount that the wrong way around, more or less, on here. So that is solid. And then I clamp my microphone in here. Shove that a bit through, 1 second, because, okay. And then connect this to my GoPro, and that is solid. So if you walk around with that, you know it's great and stays in place. You can take this and put it on a table or whatever, and you can talk to the camera like I do here, or you pull that out and put it on the ground. So that's super flexible. I like it. So hence I switched over from my Sony to the GoPro 7, not the 8, 7. And I'm really happy with that. So that stays in there. That's my vlogging camera. So another thing I actually have to my vlogging setup is this little light. I mean, I put links to all that stuff in my description below, so you can check it out later. But that light is really handy, as you know, I have a little bit of a kitchen, what is it called, greaseproof paper here, and it just makes a nice soft light. So you know, when you're vlogging yourself and there's not enough light, I just mount that to my vlogging gear on top of it or on the side, and it's actually pretty handy. You know, you can bump the color up or not, or for example, if you have the sun in the background, then obviously the camera will, you know, close up and you're not seeing your face. It's rather handy to have that. So that's not only for night video, it's also handy to have actually on your vlogging setup during the day, just to get a nicer exposure. So also it's really handy in the tent, by the way, because the battery lasts really long in there. And as everything I carry, it's all USB chargeable. Very important. Right, let's go back to selfie sticks. The catch with selfie sticks is some of them you just pull apart and they rotate as soon you put something a bit more heavier on top of it. So for example, when I used to mount my point and shoot camera on here, what I can do quite easy. At the moment I have my GoPro adapter on it, just to show you. Here we go, point and shoot, that will do nicely. Put that on. If I pull that out, because it has that lock mechanism here, it doesn't turn. So if I have this camera at an angle, like you have like that, and you do selfies or you do a piece to camera or whatever, you know, it just works really well, and you know the camera is not twisting because you have a firm grip on it. That's a rather handy tool. As well, it comes with a remote control, a Bluetooth remote, what actually works great with my GoPros, with my Sonys, and with my point and shoot camera, and also with a 360 camera. So that one remote control works with all my cameras, apart from obviously the Canon, but I don't need it for that. So the selfie stick, really important that you have a really sturdy one, because I can mount that to my motorbike. 1 second, put that camera away. I can mount that to my motorbike because it has a 1/8 of an inch thread on it. So you know, I can tie that on, and then I use that for the 360 camera or a GoPro. Right, let's talk about audio. Audio is so important that I can't stress it enough. If you don't have decent audio in your production, it's useless, because you will not keep the attention of your viewer if your audio is rubbish. I have a frog in my throat. Hold on a second. Sorry for that. Ah, whoa. So let me show you what I do. On my cameras, I do have inside my helmet, obviously I have a microphone stuck on the side, not right in front of my mouth, slightly to the side so I don't breathe on it all the time. There's a microphone, and that connects straight into the Sonys. The Sonys have a dedicated microphone input. So that's one of the reasons I actually hold on to them, whereby on the newer GoPros you need that little box what you have to stick somewhere, and it can be a problem. If I do pieces to camera, say on the vlogging side of things, if I use this one, I have two options. I can use the microphone so on top of it, so I get a little bit more of the surrounding sound in it, or I can connect to this recorder a lavalier microphone. I can stick right on here, or I can use the lavalier microphone to go directly into the GoPros, directly in the phone, or whatever I choose to record on. The only time I actually use this is when I use the 360 camera and do a piece to the camera, or if I want to capture a really nice sound what surrounds me, say like a a water feature or you're on the beach or something like that, you know, where you need the space around yourself to really capture the moment. So that is absolutely perfect for that. These lavalier microphones, they are dead cheap, and you know what, it doesn't matter how much you spend for what we do on YouTube, they are absolutely perfect. So I think the Boya here was like £15 and it does a marvelous job. It got this 3TS connector on it, so that works great on phones, but it won't work on cameras. But there's a switch on here where you can switch it to camera, and all it does is basically change the polarity of these, and then it works on your camera as well. But they're handy, you know, you flip it on here, you have your wind muff on it, and you can do a really nice piece to camera. What I normally do is I have just now got myself these little Rode wireless mics, and it's really handy because you flip one of them on top of the camera and connect it to your, actually I'll show you how I set this up. Hold on a second, where's that thing? So what I do is I take that microphone off, I use the cable, I take this out of the hot shoe, if I get it out, I clip the wireless receiver into the hot shoe, use the same cable, connect it to the output, clip that on me, there's a microphone included, and I can basically do a piece to camera and have that at a little distance, so I'm not hampered by a cable. Now if I am, you know, oh, one drawback of that is when it comes to wind noise, they have these little dead cats, we call it in the trade, where you connect to your microphone on here. Where's the microphone? On this one. Oh, it's the wrong one here. It's this one here. So, and you tack that on it, and hold on a second. And let me tell you, just don't bother with that because that flips off. It's absolutely useless. So what I do then is I use my lavalier microphone, plug that in here because I've got a lavalier input, shove that in my pocket and just have that out here, and that basically gives me the wind protection I need to do a good piece to camera with clear sound. So I can highly recommend these little Rode ones. I put a link again. It all depends how serious you take your stuff. So for me, it's like I do professional camera work as well for some of my clients. So, you know, it's a good excuse to invest in this stuff. I actually use, one second. Normally I have these big professional microphone setups I use for my audio when I go out filming, but you know, that little Rode wireless video mic thing, absolutely perfect for what it does. It works with via Bluetooth. Distance is about 50 meters if you're lucky, but you don't need that, so it works really well. It also works well on your phone. If you use your phone as a camera, you just more or less clamp that thing to your phone, plug it in, and you get really excellent sound to your video. So that's done, audio done. There's not much we can add to it. One thing I like to show you is how to get audio in your cameras, and I see a lot of people who still use the old Hero 4, and I like that because they actually went through the effort and put the audio input right into the camera. All you need is that tiny little cable, you plug in your microphone, and you get excellent sound on these cameras. The same with my Sonys, and I'm afraid when it comes to the GoPros, you have to work with all that fancy stuff. The biggest drawback for us motorbike rider is water and the weather. So when it comes to weather protection, I have to say you cannot beat the setup with these little Sonys, because what I did is, that's the waterproof housing who comes with the Sony, and you just add the camera on the inside like that. I actually have a protective lens hood because you do not want to mess it up. Now what it means is that is now 100% waterproof down to I think 50 meter. You have your controls on the outside, you put that on the side of your helmet like that. 1 second, oh there it is. So that's my GoPro mount with a blacked out unit. I sprayed that, you know, so it doesn't stand out because it's a white camera on the side of the helmet. And what I did is I drilled, let's see if you can see that. Hold on. I drilled a little hole on the back where I can plug in my microphone from the helmet, and I filmed with that setup in torrential rain, not to worry about water going in there. You've seen a video on, maybe you watched it, check it out, on my trip to Norway where it was raining for days and I had the camera obviously mounted to my helmet, and that's this one here. Let me show you, 1 second. Now it's that easy, no messing around. So you see in here, and then all I have to do is, let's just use this one as an example here. Where is the plug? Come on, somewhere here it is. Where is the output? Ah, in here. And you just plug that in the back of it and you're good. Now what's happened, because I was riding for days in really lousy weather, water got on the inside, because I also have above here another hole in there what I used to charge it during the day, but that has changed now, so I don't use that anymore. But in order to waterproof that completely, all you have to do is put your plug in, get a little bit of blue tack and squash a little bit of blue tack around it, and that camera will be functioning all the time without any trouble in torrential rain. So for me, that is the perfect setup. When it comes to picture quality between GoPro and the Sony FDRs, well, see it that way. If you put the stuff on YouTube, it doesn't make much difference. The new GoPros have a slightly better image quality than the Sony's FDRs. However, and I really like to stress this, for what we do as motorbike riders, this camera is unbeatable. You have no screen on it, well, don't need it. You set it and forget it. And how I set my camera up now these days is because there was a firmware update. You know, I only have it set to 1 button operation. So I have it on the side, and actually you may see this. So I hit the record button, and then you see here a red light comes on. That's in the case. I adopted the case, so I drilled a hole on it and put a little bit of plastic on top of it. So actually I see in my right hand mirror if the camera is filming or not, because that was one of the things that completely annoyed me, is sometimes I hit the button and it didn't film, and then you hit it again and you think you switch it off, but then it started filming. So that is a perfect solution. Now whenever I ride, all I have to do is put my head over to one side, see the camera in the mirror, light is on, I know I'm filming. I have perfect audio, it's waterproof, and the profile of that is way nicer than having this silly brick sticking out of the side. Also, as I said before, the image stabilization on this one is superb. It's not as good, and I have to stress that, it is not as good as the new GoPro 8, no doubt about that, but it is real. And that's what I really try to hammer home. Guys, if you make videos, try to make them authentic, make them real. If it bounces a bit, that will deal with it, no problem. But in extreme shakes, you know, it will be on your video, but that's what you want, because that's the spice. Otherwise it's just boring as heck. You know, I can't be bothered watching videos of people riding off-road or whatever where it's smooth as anything, because there's no excitement in it. When it comes to video settings, I shoot everything these days on this camera on 1080, because that's how I upload, and on the B-roll camera I shoot in 4K, because if you have 4K you can zoom in without losing quality. But when it comes to the helmet camera 1080, it's just easier to edit. So this is pretty much all the video gear I have on my trip. So that's really all about the video gear I take with me. What I want to do is now I want to show you how to use everything separately in way more detail. So I will set up a playlist on my videos, what starts now with this video, and then I go through absolutely everything in great detail. How to adjust the case, how to use all these different cameras from the GoPro 4, what you can do with that. And then what I want to do is I want to show you absolutely everything in great detail with examples. So it's not just, oh, plug that in and that is it. No, I want to show you what you can do with every single camera I have at my disposal. And you will see, you do not have to spend crazy amount of money in order to buy certain cameras just to keep up with the Joneses. So I hope that makes sense. There's a lot of more stuff I can put into that video, but I think I will just go way beyond what this video is all about. You know, remote controls, how you deal with certain stuff. That will be in follow-up videos. I hope you enjoy it. Subscribe to my channel if you want to know a little bit more about that, especially when it comes to the hands-on approach in videos. And until then, guys, ride safe, and I hope you enjoy the videos.